Hi, YouTube. How are you doing? I'm doing okay. Hey, I got a question for you. What's the difference between a Christian army or a satanic one? Nothing. Yeah, you know, one's one's considered on the dark side of things, and one's considered on the light side of things, and there is no difference, you know? Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And people pick a side. Yeah, there really is only one side, and that's morality and virtues and how we treat other people, you know? I've had on my mind um, when I started taking self-defense, not when I started combating, but when I started taking self-defense. My outlook on the way people people that would want to hurt another person, especially a woman hurting a man or people hurting children. That's when I started my training, and I really don't fear anybody. I mean, it's easy to act big over the internet. You're just wasting your energy. In fact, I really, not a lot of people have a lot of endurance. You know, they think they do till they're confronted with it, you know. I have a distinct hatred for men that would want to hurt a woman, even in a contact sport or combat. If they would go into that situation meaning to harm that woman, that's where I step in, you know? It's not no joke. It really isn't a joke. Mm, yeah, what to do, or what not to do. I'm not really worried about what not to do. I'm just worried about what's going to happen to other people because of other people's stupidity. And speaking of that, unless we sat down and talked and consider this, if somebody learned a certain language in order to derive what was out of the um, meanings in the scriptures, um, and not just the New Testament, but the whole thing, and had a thorough understanding of what was going on this planet, furthermore, could actually ignite actions in this world, um, and sit down and talk on that same level. It really doesn't matter how we derive that information as long as we're all on that same page with that understanding like that. So um, I'm really not too impressed with people that are just, well, they're the only ones with the key, of course, you know. It blows me away. There's nothing I can do with my anger except set it aside for an appropriate time. But when that motherfucker pops, watch out. I hold it in and tally it up. And then that's when it's a surgical operation. That's how I operate. I take my time. I strategize. In fact, I've strategized these things when I was very young. This isn't nothing new to me. So I don't really know what the war is about, when a man comes across a strong woman that's had to defend herself. And that's all I know. Um, if you want to condemn that, you need your head slapped in or kicked in, whatever. Whatever. That's not how I even fight anyway. I ain't even gonna tell you. You know, you'll be surprised if you ever encounter it. You know, I know, I know. You're big and you're fast, right? Really fast? Super fast. And you know Aikido and Judo and all them good things. Yep. And you can wrestle, huh? Well, Judo was the first form of wrestling. It's the oldest martial art, and all others are derived from that. Did you know? Yeah. That's not the only arts I've um, practiced. Started boxing too when I was pretty young. But that's neither here nor there. Um, if people want to play me like I'm a joke, you know, that's okay. You know, you got to think what you want to think. You don't know me, and you would act different in front of my face. Think what you want. You'd either respect and honor or equal, or you'd go down like the rest of the men that have come against me. One way or another. And you know, I'm not afraid of pain. I had to stop myself from being a masochist. Not cutting myself or anything like that, but walking into dangerous situations, not giving up, you know? And sometimes I didn't have a choice, so I adapted that attitude. So, so anyway, I really wanted to talk about that. When the two different types of men or women that would watch me and think, what makes that old woman so strong? Or, God, she pisses me off. I'd like to pound her fucking head in, you know? The two types of people I encounter with my strength and my verbal expression of that, you know? So, anyway, like I said, once again, I have a deep hatred of men that would want to come against me for my strength that I've had to have against those types of men, you know? It's like I wasn't left alone to be feminine, and I still would like to be, but I'm not letting my guard down because of people like that. Ever. I'm never, ever gonna stop exercising. Never. Even when I had broken shoulder or broken toes, broken ribs, pulled spinal cord, all kinds of. I never stopped. I don't stop and just sit there and get fat like that. You know, yeah, I get injured and it's hard to come back, but I come back. You just can't keep me down like that, emotionally and physically. Yeah, I can be physically hurt. Sure, I've been. And so what? You know? But you cannot defend yourself against somebody that'll jump around your neck and fucking take you out. Just stop playing, you know? Jesus Christ. For real. It would be a situation where people, like we could either hurt each other, which would be entirely foolish, or we could stand beside each other as equals. I've said this before, either beside me or way below, one of the two. I've even busted myself up making sure some big piece of shit went down. And it went down. So that's the art of Aikido too. Not just judo, but kind of the mixture. And then with some taekwondo and some karate and some other arts mixed in there. Um, it's really not a joke. But when I see men displaying um, animosity towards me, well, it's not really like a loving gesture. It kind of puts something in me that wants to go hunting. Doesn't make me cower or feel passive. You know, what did you think it would? See, people won't listen if they think they know something. And I said, this is what I derived um, being taught by the Dark Cabal and special books and tools and different things I had at my access. And I know the same things. Instead of talking to me like a human being, it's easy just to shut me down and try and discredit what I do know. Well, that's not going to work. What does that make you, King Pooba motherfucker? You know, because you think you know something I don't. I think all of us out here know things that other people don't. Every day, all day long, right? Fucking people. Oh no. But yeah, I got my Taz shirt on today. I was gonna wear Brock Lesnar's t-shirt, Death Clutch, but decided not to. Taz is more appropriate for what I'm feeling inside. Do I look calm? Yeah. That's looks can be deceiving, can't they? That's also a good tool and a tactic all within itself, you know? And I'm not stupid. I mean, the tiniest person on the planet can injure the largest one. You know, that's like dynamics of the whole situation. What is that? What it's ever going on in any given situation? Like, are you aware of your enemies? Are you aware of your frenemies? But I'm aware of who's being used by the dark force against me. And you're never going to get away with anything unless you want to go um, to Timbuktu and preach your version of what is. You're never going to get away from my prying eyes and my gigantic brain stopping you from spewing bullshit to suit yourself. Actually, it isn't even to suit a person's self. It's to suit their master. You got a master. Nah, nah. Eh, whatever. It is what it is, right, people? You know? Or maybe you don't. See, I don't believe that the God who made me wants anybody on their knees or to grovel or to, yeah, pay homage and respect, but feel less than or grovel or no. Uh-uh. You don't do that. Who are you? You know? Seriously, so. See, when I got to a point in my life, even with my kids, um, you don't make them get down on their knees and say their prayers. They can say their prayers any time of the day, in any position. you know, that's just my belief, you know, because I had one kid that would ask me if I would say goodnight prayers with him, and sometimes he'd be so tired or his legs would be hurting because he had some Mm, I think it was mostly growing pains, muscle aches. I think a lot of us go through that when we're growing up. Maybe not. Some of us do. Maybe if you have like a certain growth spurt, um, you're you'll ache before you go to bed, like at the end of the day when you've expended all your energy. But my youngest one had these cramps in his legs and stuff, and I've gone through. And it could be even associated with some kind of fibromyalgia or a slight case of something on that order within our blood. Could be that too. I've considered that. Oh, and I was going to touch a little bit on my OCD and my dyslexia actually being neurological things. My dyslexia wasn't something I could help, and I actually was conditioned in a certain respect by a that would hand me books upside down and then turn it back around again when I turned it right. I'm not kidding. This is all true. But, even putting that aside with my OCD, I've gotten that under control a lot too, where I used to count when I washed my hands, and I kind of do now, but I mixed it up. I put these little triggers in my mind to stop me from checking the doors or the light switches or silly things like that, that people that have been traumatized will do things or certain things in our life that isn't not exactly a mental illness, but control a self-control mechanism to make us feel in control in situations where we don't have a choice, you know. Um, that in itself gives you a certain amount of training. Um, just that. And most of us, if you're listening to me, you've probably been through the ringer. Maybe not literally, but you know what I'm saying. Um, Emotionally or physically, you know, probably not too much is really going to scare you. you know, it might make you laugh. Have you ever laughed at monsters? Ooh, they really get mad then. They do. I taught my kids how to laugh in the face of monsters. But then my kids aren't little cupcakes either. They're pretty big boys, big men, strong martial artists. And monsters, they're not nice people. They don't save people with their arts, they hurt other people. So, yeah. It really is how you strike somebody. Like people think, oh, a fist or whatever. Your palm in the middle of somebody's chest, if they're big, you're going to take them off their feet if you know where to apply everything and size them up. And there you go. It's the schematics on their human self. that takes them out. And it really is sizing them up spiritually and physically. Now, you don't always have that chance if you're being attacked or if it's a sneak attack or a surprise thing. But if you've trained enough, your instincts are in there. You know, they don't go away. Because when you first start combating and you're small, you might not have fear, but you have an awareness that you're much smaller than some of your opponents, you know? So once you get over that, it's a big deal. Whoop-de-doo, you know? And little people, there's some dangerous little critters out there. I seen little tiny people that were fearless. I had a friend that worked on the oil rigs. He did what they call pulling chain on them big pipes, you know. And he was, oh, what was he? I'm 5'9 1/4" with 36-inch legs. He was probably 5'5" and about 120 some pounds with biceps like that. No, a tiny Popeye that stood up for me. He stood up for me. And big dude was scared. And he should have been because this dude was serious. You don't hurt women. And he was one of them. I've not had that happen a lot in my life. But that one time, yeah. But I did give him a place to live when he needed one. Out in the oil field where housing was really hard to find at certain times. If there was an oil boom, it was really hard to find a place to live. So, yeah. So he was grateful. And then I'd cook some nice meals and things like that. He was full of gratitude. He borrowed me his truck when I gave birth to my first son. I didn't have a vehicle until he was about a month old. I think I finally saved enough to get an old vehicle. But yeah, I got to drive his brand new truck. I mean, even to go get groceries and stuff. What a nice person, right? You know? Big old Ford 4 by it was a two-tone, this color brown kind of with the cream yellow in it. Real beautiful. Brown interior. Nice, nice truck. His name was Gary Peppinger, and he had a girlfriend named Barbie. And Barbie was pregnant at the same time I was, and they had a daughter. And then we lost track of each other after that because I had to move for work because everything went down. Where I lived, there was no jobs to be found. Well, I had a job. My ex couldn't find employment, and so, yeah. I think there was a little more to all that too, but yeah, it's in the past. Whatever. He was a piece of satanic artwork. Yeah. And if I have anybody here that is a piece of satanic artwork, you obviously think the God of this world is the one and the same as the Almighty. Well, I think the Almighty's lowest personification on this planet is just that, also, because that energy is, it's not separate. What we have inside of us is two things, you know. It's not just one thing in here, you know. Just depends what you want to bring out, you know. So I'm not one of these people like just because like okay, I'm more like a crusader, you know. They weren't nice. You know, but I am, you know, I am nice. I'm kind. I'm not always nice. I'm very kind to my kind. If you're not my kind, I'm not very nice. And you're gonna pay for fucking with me, you know? One way or another. If I can't get you physically, I'll get you with my mind. Watch me. It's not a joke. I don't take assaults against my character as something to be overlooked. There's going to be retribution. You know, fuck you. Don't play with me. Anybody else feel like that? I mean, if I were left alone, fine. But I'm not going to let people spread a bunch of shit out on this planet and not say anything about it. When I say I know something, I'm telling you I know it. Doesn't matter how I derived at that information. If I could talk about the same things that another person talks about, then that's the same level of understanding, period. You know? But some people gotta have that big fat head crown thing, you know? I don't need a crown or a stage or a microphone or special lighting or none of that shit. I'm out here talking to people like human beings. And I do love everybody up to a point on their level. As much as you can be lovable, so can I. You know? But if not, I'll be way worse, way worse. You won't even see it coming. That's way worse. Trust me. I know what I'm talking about. You know why? Because I've been me for 67 years. That's why. And I know how I operate. You operate like that? I do. Power to the people. Woo! You know? I got pretty good. I broke this arm right here and here in this shoulder. It's been about, mm, let's see, it's been about 7 or 8 years ago now, and tore a bunch of tendons. I caught Doug out of a tree. He was using the chainsaw, and the ladder slipped, and I ran over there. I was across the road in like 3 bounds for about 16 feet, and I got under him, and I got him on my shoulder, and it was okay. He was able to turn off the chainsaw. And then I hoisted him up on my shoulder, and when he came back down, because I didn't want him to fall, we both would have fell. But I cratered myself instead because he's pretty hefty. Hefty cinch sack. I used to tell my kids, I don't need a coffin. I don't care if I'm burnt or buried or stick me in a hefty cinch sack and kick me in a hole. What do I care? I'm not gonna care. Why do these people have to have, like, what are you doing, with all this gold and satin and velvet and engraved shit and all this shit? Who cares? Give 'em a headstone and stick 'em in a hole, you know, right? Anyway, but no, I don't have a body like a man. I'm a physically fit woman that can combat. You got a problem with that? If you do, you're sure gonna have. And if you don't, I think we could be friends. Either way, doesn't matter, right? But like I say, it's really easy for people, like I say, when I say I know something and it's the same information somebody else is talking about and it's been derived from a different mode, doesn't make what I'm saying untrue or what they're saying untrue. It just makes them look foolish for having a fat head when other people are on that same level, no matter where they got their information, you know? So, all right, everybody, I appreciate you joining me. Have a really good night or day wherever you're at. Peace and love from Pine City, Minnesota, USA.